Let's make a winter pom-pom wreath with a splash of color. Welcome back to another Yarnspirations tutorial. I'm your host, Kristen Mangus of GoodKnit Kisses. Let's get started. Today we're working on another pom-pom wreath. This one is for the winter with these beautiful wintry whites and creams and a touch of gray. But today I've added my own personal touch and put in the initial for my last name. And without an 18-inch wreath today, I'm going to use a 14-inch wreath that I found. I really like the size of this one with my wrapped letter. And now I wrapped it in this red color from Bernat Beyond. This is a super bulky number 6 weight yarn. You are going to need, of course, your scissors. You'll also need a measuring tape for this one, just so that you can get these lengths right. And I'll tell you what lengths that you need to add and to put the hanger on for your wreath here. And then you're going to need some small and large pom-pom makers, or you're going to use your fingers, either 3 fingers or 4 fingers for the small and the large pom-poms. And I will be adding in that tutorial into this video from our last video, so you don't need to click anywhere. So we're going to be making our pom-poms first and then tying them on. But before we do, we will tie on the loop that will keep it snug and secure. And I'll make it to where you can change it out and you can put this letter in on there as well. All right, let's get to the rest of our supplies, which is the yarn. To download your pattern, click on the link in the description below. Okay, so we want to work with 5 different colors here. And this pattern we're working with Bernat Softy Chunky. Contrast A is white and contrast B is natural. You need 2 balls of each. Bernat Blanket, contrast C is vintage white and D is pale gray. 1 ball of each. And Bernat Pipsqueak, contrast E, whitey white, 1 ball. Now that's the little bit larger ball. I did the smaller one, and so I have fewer pom-poms, but I'm going to use a 14-inch wreath, and so it'll be just fine. So you don't have to use a pom-pom maker. You can use your hands, and there are instructions on here, and it tells you how many to make of each color in each size. Let's start by making the hanger. This is what's going to go around the diameter of your wreath, and it'll have that little loop on it so you can hook it up. Now, this pattern doesn't require any glue or even a permanent thing tied in a knot onto your wreath, so you can reuse it. It's really great. We're going to make a loop and tie it. So in order to know how long you need, and I want a little loop that hangs up, it's about 1 inch. So you need a tape measure. So I go measure around here and get my thickness of my wreath, and then I add 1.5 inches, and that's how long I want this when I stretch out this loop. I want mine 7 inches because I have about 5.5 inches or 5 inches around here. So this is 7. So just going to take a length of yarn and then get it to the 7 right down here, and then I'm just going to go around and tie a knot. This is the faster way to do it. Okay, once I tie my knot, then I'm going to take my clippers, scissors, and do that. You can also tie a square knot. This is just an easy way to show you how to make a knot on here. And then this is how you use your hanger. So let me set this aside, and you just slip this loop around here and pull it on through. Okay, and so this is going to be what hangs from my nail. Okay, hang from my door, hang from my wall, wherever you want it. Now, as a bonus in this video, I'm also putting a letter on, and I've added 2 strands to the back here, and I've just tied them on, wrapping around. See, I've wrapped my letter, and then I've tied on an extra length, and then made a 3-inch drop here. So from here to here, it's about 3 inches. And then I did the same over here and made sure that when I cut it off, it was the same length as over here. So I'm going to do something right now where I just slip this through these 2 holes. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to slip my holder through here first. And then I'm going to go to the top up here and make my little slip knot through here and then pull it through. So we're just going to pull right through that loop. And then that is going to be, and I can put this knot on the inside, it's going to have pom-poms on it. And then that is what's going to be my hanger. And then I'm going to have all the pom-poms attached here. Okay, so all these pom-poms are going to be hanging over. And then I have enough drop for the M to be hanging down. You could make it a little bit longer if you like. And so you could try it at 3 inches, maybe even try it at 3.5. I really wouldn't go much further because then it'd be hanging way down. But if you went shorter than 3, I think you're going to find that the pom-poms cover up your letter too much. You can also add a nice pretty bow. And if you want to make a bow and have me teach you, click on the eye in the upper right hand corner and that will link you directly to the bow video. And I've made that years ago and I hope you enjoy it. All right, so I'm going to start tying on. I've already made all of these, so we're going to continue on teaching you how to make them. So stay tuned. This next segment is going to show you how to make a pom-pom, and pause your video, make all of your pom-poms. Be careful with your hand, you know, don't get overzealous. I sprained my thumb doing that. Type sprain in the comments below if you heard that. But you're going to want to just start tying them on, and you'll see me afterwards when I've got them all put on here. So you can just tie them on, put them in a knot, and flip it around and continue on and stagger all your colors. And I will see you soon and show you the result. All right, pause that video to make all your pom-poms. See you soon. All right, let's get started making our pom-poms. All right, so I'm going to make a pom-pom, and the pom-poms listed in this pattern, you can make a 4-finger wide pom-pom, which matches this one, which becomes a 3-inch or 76.5 or 76.2 millimeter size pom-pom, or a 3-finger size, wrapping with your 3 fingers, or it's measured at 2.5 inches or 63.5 millimeter pom-pom. So that's all I'm using from this set. Now, what I'm also doing is I'm using the base or even the top of this cover here. I'm actually using this cover for cutting my trimmings into, and I'll show you how beneficial that is if you're using this set. What I'm doing is I use the side of this as a measuring device. So I'm pulling out 2 lengths of this to make my tail. And we're just going to take one of our pom-pom makers. Let's do the big one so you can really see it. And I lay it across. Just grab my pom-pom maker and go right across and put it into that notch. And that's the beginning of where I measured that, or the length of where I measured it to, and then going around here and then letting it lock in. I just hold it on. Now, if you're right or left-handed, you'll do it the opposite way. I hold on to this left-hand side, and then I use my right-hand side to wind it around. Okay, now hold this to the side because you'll want that. You're just going to take your yarn and wrap it all the way around. Now, you may have seen a video where you take the length and hang it over the side, but if you do it this way, you'll see why it's okay to leave this. And if you were wrapping around with it already cut, it's going to get in your way and wrap up in your pom-pom, and that's no good. So just continue wrapping around, and when it gets nice and full and about even around here, that's when you can stop. You can make it kind of pooch out a little bit. It just uses more yarn. The more you wrap, the more yarn you use. So, and on the ones that have Bernat Softy Chunky, you'll actually wind them, you can actually wind them a little bit more full, and you'll have plenty of yarn. Actually, all of them but the Pipsqueak, you should have plenty of yarn in the quantities that I gave, especially if you use the big balls and the Bernat blanket. So you just use a little over 1 ball on the Softy Chunky, so have no fear on going over and overwrapping. Okay, so I've just wound this entire time. There's no time lapse here. Just chatting it up with you. All right, let's get this nice and full. Okay, so I've let it go all the way to here, and it's past these little divot points here. Okay, that one kind of went over a little bit. Let's get that there. So wrap it all the way around, and we're just going to take our scissors and cut. And then take this part. I'm actually going to use my longer scissors, and I'll show you why. We're going to take this part here and clip it. Okay, that's my right side. Of course, left-handed do the opposite. So now we're going to pinch this and pull it, and it will pull this tail here. So let's pull it. Look at that. Now it's all ready for you to tie it in a knot. I'm going to take the part where I cut it and flip it over so it holds it down on the table. We're just going to tie a knot with our tail. Okay, I'm going to hold that. Make sure I get that tied in nice. Okay, and then now I'm going to take my scissors, and my longer scissors, like I said, do work out better. I'm just going to slip it right into that groove and start cutting. You want to make sure you have nice and sharp scissors, but they don't quite get all the way into the grooves. You can also like push on it and then use that link to your benefit and kind of make a little fulcrum and push upward like this. And as you push upward, it actually causes that blade to sort of slice into the yarn for you. Let it work. Let the scissors work for you and don't work against it. I actually have my kids helping me with some of this, and they had trouble with their scissors. So this is what I found was best when we took it on this groove and pulled upward instead of just trying to guide it around. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me. Now what I do is I kind of take my scissors and fluff it out this way. I'm going to leave this guide in here, and now we're just going to put this over and use it as a little trimming bucket. And I found that I can use either scissors. I liked using these smaller ones for trimming. And this is how we trim it up. Just use it and trim it up and make it kind of round here. And once you think you've kind of got it, go ahead and flip on over to the other side. I use this here as a guide to keep this flat on the bottom. Let's go around. And you see these long strands? You've got to not get those in the way, because that's what you're using to tie it into your wreath. So let's make this kind of fluff out a little bit and continue trimming this up so it's rounded. And that bucket works nicely for most of the trimmings. I've kind of got it out of there a little bit. Okay. So now we're going to take our guide and take it off. And you see it's kind of pushed out a little bit. Now fold it in half and put your ties out to the side, and it makes a little bit of a teardrop shape. I'm going to fluff it and flatten it, and then we'll go around here and continue trimming it. We just want to make sure we have a nice round shape. Now don't over trim or it's just going to get smaller and smaller. This is just for getting those pieces that are just stuck out like this. Okay, so now you have got your first pom-pom made. Kind of give that a little shake, fluff it up, and move it to the side and continue making all the rest of your pom-poms. You'll move on and make as many as you need in the larger size with either winding around your fingers, however many times it says in the pattern. Winding around the 4, you do 60 times, or you do 3 fingers and winding around about 40 times and tying that off. So use your fingers or use your pom-pom maker. Make the quantity in the large size and the small size in the different sizes. The only difference I will say is when I used the pipsqueak and made these larger pom-poms, I actually made, instead of making 10, I made just 6 of these. And in the smaller, I made 3 of these instead of the 6 that it called for. I just didn't make quite as many of them and only bought 1 ball. So just so you know how much I used. All right, pause your video and meet me back with your wreath, and we will show how to tie those on and get your wreath made. See you soon. Okay, so you have your balls off to the side here, and you've got your wreath, whether it's wire or it's like a solid foam, that's okay. You could even do a picture frame, something square or rectangular, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so I'm going to tie these on, and you just go around and strategically tie them on in the places that you'd like. You can go around with the wire one. It's really kind of cool because you can pull it through and tie it this way from the front and tie it in a bow and leave it there. If you want to be able to access it later, you can tie them from the back and turn it over and put your pom-pom down and then pull it up from the back and tie it this way. Now you might also want a crochet hook to help pull that through. So you might want a hook to pull that yarn through and make it easier for you to tie it on. But I would definitely suggest, let's see, we'll show how to pull that through. There we go. And save your fingers. When you tie this on, I would just tie it in a bow, just like you're tying your shoes, okay? And then make sure to get it to where you can still access and get those tails. And then it stays on, and then you can tie the next one on to the ends like this. And then get one for the inside and use, say, the smaller ones. And you can make them as full or not. Like some of these I didn't make as full because I wanted to have a little bit of a texture thing. And tie this on and tie a knot. And then that way, when we flip it over, you will, once you get them all on here, you won't see any of the tails. And, excuse me, I've got all the extra fuzz. You won't see any of the tails, and then you can switch this out later, switch out your colors for another holiday. So continue tying all of yours on, and I'm going to give you one more tip if you want to try it a different way. Pause your video and continue, or keep watching. So what I've done is I have started placing my pom-poms in sort of a circle here and putting all their tails sort of in the up position or over to the side so I can see them. And then I'm laying my wreath upside down on here, and it lifts it up above it. And what I'm going to do is just tie them on from this direction so I can actually see what it's going to look like. Now this is going to be from the back. So what I did is I placed my major colors of pom-poms, the larger ones, and then now I'm coming back through and filling in a spot where I think it will go, and maybe putting them sort of on the bottom-ish under this area here, and finding where there's a gap or a hole and just kind of popping it over in that area, and then I will kind of scoot that down in. So when I get to that area, I'll know to slide that ball in. All right, so continue getting your things placed and tying them on, and in a moment I'll show you what it looks like when I get all of mine tied on. See you soon. All right, we're going to make a wrapped letter. I'm wrapping this in yarn, and I'm not going to use any glue or tape or anything. It's simply just wrapping it around. The benefit to that is you can reuse this letter later, or you can change out the yarn to another color, whatever you want to do. So today I'm going to wrap this, and then I'll also show you how to make a little hanger that hangs this right here, and then you can hang it on the wreath that I'm going to make, or hang it on whatever you want. You'll need a tape measure for that part of it. Otherwise, you just need your yarn and some scissors, and then a tapestry needle or needle that will fit, the eye of the needle will fit the type of yarn you're using. I'm using Bernat Beyond. This is a super bulky number 6 weight yarn. We're not going to use very much of it, just enough to wrap it. Okay, so start with just taking whatever you've got on there for tags. It doesn't matter if these stay on here or not. I'm going to set everything else to the side and start wrapping. I'll show you how I execute that, how I do it, and then you'll be able to kind of figure out how to do it on the letter that you're going to do. And you'll see the little trick, how I carry the yarn down the back without glue or anything like that. It may require wrapping it a couple of times. So I'm going to start by getting my yarn in the back. Okay, just hold it, let it be loose. This is just going to get wrapped in here. And then I'm going to go, oops, I'm going to flip it this side. Start at the top. Okay, and so I'm going to wrap around this point here, and I want to try and build up a little bit of yarn around this area. And this is only because I've done this on an exact duplicate of this already. So I'm going to build this up because I also need to cover up this wood part here. Now you can start with the color, paint this first if you want to, in the color of yarn you're using, and then you don't need as much, but who's going to do that? I'm not. So I'm just going to simply go around and get it right to the edge of this letter. And I'm going to get right on the corners and go around it until I cover up all that extra wood. Now the end here, I can just slide it to the end when I'm done, and you can even touch this up with some marker or something, or just make it in black. And now I've completely covered that little serif part. And I'm just going to wrap all the way down. This little thing can hide in the back. And just continue wrapping where it's all squished side by side. Okay, and then when I get down to where the letter starts breaking, I'm going to wrap a little extra thick. Okay, so now that I've kind of covered up this little area here, I'm going to go to secure it, just go around this whole thing, kind of get that little pocket in there done. Now, I'm going to flip it onto the back just so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to hold it with my thumb and go down here, give it a little bit of slack. I'm going to trap this in later and then move my other thumb down to hold it. Let me flip this around. So now you can see I'm just holding it the back here, and I'm going to go around that bottom of that letter by that serif and then do it one more time like we had done before on the top part. And then I'm going to go down to the end here and then kind of let my yarn grab on the corners. And sometimes, depending upon the serif, so it depends on what's happening on yours, but like I would grab this top part of this hard corner first and let it kind of overlap and overlay a little bit, and then do the next one, and then jump a space and go down to the very end, and then fill it in with that yarn. See, I'm going in between where those layers were. And I didn't really care if I got it too thick around these, because my main thing is I didn't want it to be, I didn't really want to see the wood sticking out here. See, there was some wood before, but now I really covered it up. I don't care if it's too thick. To me, I don't. I like it to be consistent looking, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to go all the way around. And so I'm holding it this direction because it's more comfortable, but hold it in whatever direction works for you. So just continue all the way up to that spot. And when you get back up to here, we're going to just go ahead and pause your video. And when you get up to this spot, unpause it and I'll show you how to move on. Okay. So you can see I'm getting closer up here, and I'm kind of guiding it with my fingers in the back and holding on to it as I go. And there we go. All right. And now I'm going to turn it around and see how I can now start wrapping in the other direction around this one. And I've, oh, by the way, this part I've now, it's trapped into here, and it's just laying right here, and I can tuck this in later with my tapestry needle, and I'll show you how to do that a little later. So now we're going to go around this thin part. Actually, I'm going to turn it back in this direction. And I'm just guiding it with my finger and putting it where I want it. This one's a little more hard to manage because you got to go around all these little zigzags. It takes longer. And go ahead and keep doing it until you get down to your next little stopping point, and we'll continue on. This would be how you would wrap a letter A, which is going to be pretty frequent for some people. And letter E, I would definitely wrap sideways. I wouldn't try and wrap something vertically. It's always going to be in the shortest distance if possible. You could wrap in cardboard, you know, and just trace out your pattern, but you might want to double your cardboard and trace out 2 letters the same size and then glue them together for something thick. So you could totally do this with just scrap stuff that you have. You don't have to buy a letter, you know, or some old foam board or something like that. Okay, so now I'm down at the end of this one, and I want to get this tip done because I can't, if I wrap this from here down to here, I found that it doesn't cover up this part of the A as well. So I'm going to get one more round here. And also, I'm going to get one side of this A down here. And that is nice and secure in that. And I'm going to go overlap that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of covering up this little notch because of the angles, it doesn't hide very well. And this is just from me doing it from the first time. So, and I'll have a gap here, and then when I come back, I'll fill this in. All right, so now that I've kind of gone around this part, I'm gonna hold it in the back and let it go all the way to the end, and use my other finger to hold it. Okay, and then just wrap all the way around that tip, and you can go run around the one here and let that catch. And then try and kind of how you did it here, maybe like let it be on the edge and then fill it in. So it just takes some kind of finesse, and I'm pulling on it pretty hard. Okay, so just continue going around. I like not using the the glue. One, it's not a mess, and I don't get burned if it's hot glue, but also I like that I can reuse this letter, because I'm not always going to want it wrapped in yarn. Okay, I'm getting all the way up here, and now I'm going to wrap that in, give it another layer on top, and it covers up that little hole that was there. And now I'm just going to turn around the other side and work my way up again. So I'm back up. I didn't go very far. I just wanted to show you, I remembered when I go on a severe angle like this, sometimes what I have to do is overlap my stitches, and because I'll start being in an angle, but I need it to be easier up here, straighter. So like I start adjusting and overlapping a couple of stitches. So not that these are stitches, but a couple of wraps. So, all right, continue on. Okay, so I'm up here where this little area is. I'm changing the directions, and it's going to be similar to what I did over here. And I'm just adding in some extra yarn here to get that little area done. All right, go around, and I'm going to go a little bit lower than what you think, because you think, oh, I'm going to do this, but it's going to leave that little spot there. So just kind of overlap it, because everybody knows it's going to be that letter. It's okay if it's not going all the way up to that point there. So just cover that up, and then when you get that next part on there, it'll be fine. All right, so I'm covering up a couple of them, and I'm going to go wrap around and go down to the bottom first, because I want to end at the top of the letter. So I'm going to come down here, do what I did before, where I grab it with my finger, and then I take my next finger and hold it, and then I go down to where the bottom of the serif is, and wrap around a couple of times. And this one's so thin, it's a little harder. You might have to rework it a couple of times. I like how this yarn kind of spreads out on me, this Bernat. And then I can kind of cover up the top of that letter easier. You may have to play with it a couple of times. Okay. Just going to wrap a few times over, wrap that end, and then just keep going. And if it's showing, you know, you can just use a colored marker to color that, cover that up, and then if you use it another time, you can change the color out. It's really not that big of a deal. Okay, I'm at the last serif. So I'm going to wrap it one more time just to make sure, get that extra little part in there. And so you can see it's not the perfection. It's actually, I think it's fun to not have this perfect, because you get all that extra texture. See that? It just jumped off because I'm sitting here talking. So I'm going to rewrap a couple of this. Just do it again. It's no big deal. Okay. All right. Now I'm on the back, and then I want to cut a length here. And then I want to keep that nice and tight. So if you can, hold on to it, or get someone to hold it on there for you while you put your tapestry needle on. Okay. So I've got a nice long strand here that I can work with. I've got it pulling it tight. And then just go into, don't worry about the hangers right now. This is just to complete all your tie-ins and stuff. So just going to go into a stitch and pull through and get a loop. And then we're just going to pull through that loop. So when you got a little loop, then pull on it. And we're going to make that as tight as we can. And then we're going to do it again. Find another set of loops. And pull through and make a loop. And tie that up. And once you've got a few in there, then you can just work through a few of these. This is, again, this is on the back. All right. And no one's going to see this back side. And if they are, then you can wrap this nicer on the back too, and then tuck them in later. So I don't need anything else on that. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. And then this one, I want to work it in. And see, it's shorter, so if you have something shorter like this, you can go ahead and put your needle in. Go through a couple of these layers here at a time first before you try and thread it. And then thread it. And this is a plastic needle, so it's gonna be it's gonna bend on me. They can break, so you gotta be careful with them. But in this case, it's nice because I can get in there. Okay, now I'm just gonna pull it on through, and that's it. Gonna clip that off, and then all you need to do is make your hangers. So use it like this, or make your hangers. So my hangers, I want to cut a couple of lengths here, about the same. Okay, and then I'm going to tie them on. We're going to tie them around the serif on here and around the back and just make a secure knot, a square knot. So you tie it left over right. And then right over left. Okay. And then I'm going to get the other one on there. Put it about the same spot. Okay. All right, and then now I want to make sure that this is about a 3-inch hang, and we'll make sure both of them are the same. So I'm going to go down here. This is 3 inches. You can even make a maybe make a knot and say that's my measured distance. So that one's a little bit more than 3. It's 3.5. If I measure this one at 3, it should do the same thing. I just want to make sure they're both the same. And make sure that this is the distance I want. Yep, and that actually ended up being about the same the way that I tied it. So then I'm just going to do the same thing here and make sure my knot falls right where that one is. And then I know that it's the right distance. So that's a little hack to make sure you get them the same distance, is just go ahead and put a knot at the length that you want it. And then once you have that, you can secure it. You know what? I got that one messed up a little bit. So here we go. Okay. All right. Now I've got my 2 hangers. And then these can be attached to something. So what I've done is I can attach them to something else and then hang it that way, and then it will hang from the object that you need. Well, I hope you enjoy making your pom-pom wreath as much as I did. I really like it, and I love that big bold pop of my last initial. Really cool. If you want to put it in the bow, remember to click on that video to get the bow video, and or switch it out and make that letter. I'd love to see what you did, so tag me at GoodKnit Kisses on social media, and I'd love to see it. Well, thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Yarnspirations and GoodKnit Kisses, I'm your host, Kristen, wishing you happy crafting. Bye-bye.